Hello everybody, hope you're all doing well. It's Lane here with MetaShackle. Today we're going to be looking over 4 cryptocurrencies that are currently exhibiting what is known as an embedded stochastic. This is basically just a momentum play, and it's currently playing to the upside. And right now, in regards to the ISO 222 tokens, there are only 4 that have this status, with HBAR now having been embedded for 10 days, ETH on its 9th day, ALGO on its 4th day, and XRP has now joined the club once again for the second time on its 3rd day. So I'll be taking a look at these really quick, so let's not waste any more time and let's get into the video. Use the coupon code 1776 for the entire month of July to get 25% off your first month of my Master Tier memberships on Patreon. I'll see you there. First, taking a look at the XRP Daily Chart. This is my standard chart that I use, and I release on my Patreon on the 1st of every month. Now you can see here that we have this bearish SIBI right here, which has actually been broken. We have a weak doji waterfall here, as well as this bearish order block, which have been broken. This has been filled, and this weak doji waterfall right here has also been filled. So when you really start to look at the charts now, trading above the equilibrium zone by a country mile, the stochastic being embedded, working into what could potentially be its 4th day, and I'm guessing by looking at the charts right now that that will be the case, that there is very little upwards resistance remaining on this chart, basically nothing. So moving up to this all-time high should be fairly easily achieved. The only question now is what is going to happen next. Are we going to hit this and consolidate, perhaps coming down and retesting this upper trend line? Are we going to continue to break higher to the upside, maybe hitting some targets like $4, perhaps $5 before consolidating? It's going to be very interesting to watch, and it's definitely starting to pick up some momentum as we speak right now. So I think this is going to be very exciting, especially for those of us who planned well ahead and have had our bags packed for a long time. Now jumping over to the HBAR charts, you can see that we're now trading just below this bearish order block that I talked about in the last video. Price is still trading below the equilibrium zone. There are multiple levels of bullish support here in the form of a bullish BISI here on the daily, centered at about 18 cents. One just below that at about 16.5. If we can get through this bearish order block, breaking through the equilibrium zone and through this bearish SIBI on the daily right here, centered at about 29.8, we should be able to gain some serious ground. But when looking at the HBAR charts, there is a lot of upside potential here before we get to the pattern high that's resting right here at around that 40-cent level. So it's very likely with cryptos like Bitcoin and XRP gaining so much ground price-wise, even though they might not have the strength that coins like HBAR have been exhibiting, having an embedded stochastic here and actually being embedded longer now than any of the other coins. This momentum could continue for quite some time moving forward, which could lead us to the point where we could see much higher prices. But we also have to keep in mind that the potential to come back down and retest this upper trend line exists. Perhaps not for every cryptocurrency, but I do think that there's a good chance we could see that occur. It certainly doesn't have to, but we certainly can't rule it out at this point either. Now moving over and taking a look at the Ethereum chart, you can see that we're trading above the equilibrium zone. We have just taken out this weak doji waterfall right here on the daily. We are currently running into resistance here on this bearish SIBI on the daily, which is centered about that 35.20 level. There still remains a little bit of room to the upside before we hit this upper trend line. And here's a look at the overall pattern. If we can get up above this trend line, it could be incredibly bullish. This will definitely be one to keep your eye on because I think that it's going to go at a minimum up to around that 4,000 level, but I'll show you on another chart why I think that here in just a moment. Is now on its 9th consecutive day of having the embedded stochastic reading, which could continue to last a little bit longer moving forward, but you can see once this stochastic started to get embedded, the pure amount of momentum that pumped into it, which is often the case when this occurs. And taking a look at the ALGO daily chart, it is also trading below the equilibrium zone. It has now filled this weak doji echo waterfall right here on the daily, so we can go ahead and remove that. There's also multiple levels of support below it here in the form of a bullish BISI centered at about 19.95, and we also have a bullish order block resting here at about 16 cents. But we do have to contend with this bearish SIBI here and this bearish SIBI here before we can start to work on breaking through the equilibrium zone to the upside. Algo is now on its 4th consecutive day with the embedded stochastic reading, and it's still riding a little bit low, so there's still quite a bit of room that this thing could move to the upside, giving it a nice little boost. There's a good chance if we could get through this area right here and above this equilibrium zone that we could see an incredible move to the upside, perhaps even challenging this pattern high right here at about that 61.5 level. Now jumping over and taking a look at my trading charts, you can see this yellow line right here represents the highest area of volume on this entire pattern that's currently on this chart. This bar here represents going from the all-time high right down here to the pattern low, with this one here measuring from this breakout low here to the current high that we're in now, leaving 2 additional layers of volume right through here. So basically what that means is for this particular pattern within this blue box, this red line represents the highest level of volume, as well as this one, with the highest level of volume being down here. It's very interesting that we see the pattern volume concentrating right in this general area where the breakout candle occurred. It might not be a popular opinion, and although we do have this bullish BISI right here, which would be our first layer of support, starting right around that $2.50 level, it is very common for price to come back down and retest these upper trend lines of these breakouts, oftentimes right about the point that we had the breakout from that line, which would be at about 235. It certainly doesn't have to happen, but it's something that I'm looking out for, because if it does, that would be a great entry for a long position. Now taking a look at the HBAR trading chart, as far as what we see here on the chart, the most concentrated area of volume is right here at this yellow line, just below this current breakout that we're seeing. We do have this bearish SIBI right here to contend with. Keep in mind, these are the 3-day charts. The concentration of volume from this pattern high down here to the pattern low was basically right here in this general area, resting just above this bullish BISI, and from this breakout low here to the current high, the volume is matching almost identically the volume concentration for everything that we're seeing on the entire chart. If we can get through this bullish BISI right here, we have a nice target right here in the form of a weak doji waterfall on the daily chart, resting at about 32.5 cents. It could definitely break through here and continue higher, potentially challenging this pattern high. But as a trader, if I had gotten in down here anywhere, this would likely be one of my targets where I would take some profits off the table. So there is quite a bit of room to the upside here if this momentum can continue and we keep the embedded stochastic. Now taking a look at the Ethereum charts, we can see right now that the area of concentration of the highest area of volume is also resting just above this bullish BISI on the 3-day chart. We do have this bearish BISI right here to contend with on the daily chart. If we can get through this, we have a nice potential target on the weak doji waterfall, resting at about 4,006.76. This particular pattern here rendered volume in this area is the highest traded, and from this breakout low here to the current high, the volume is very close to the overall pattern volume in yellow. If price does come back to consolidate lower, these are great areas to look for a point of reversal, because a lot of time price will seek out these high volume areas because there tends to be a lot of liquidity resting in this area, especially around this BISI and this 4,006 level on Ethereum, as it will be pushing up towards these candles here. So we could see something very interesting if we can punch through this, moving to the upside. But if we do get a reversal, we have this nice area of support right through here by this volume concentration and this bullish BISI on the 3-day at about 2,309. So this will definitely be one to watch because it might give us a lot of clues into what we're about to see within the other cryptos. Now jumping over and taking a look at the algo trading chart. We have the embedded stochastic reading. Price is currently trading up and fighting with the lower area of this bearish BISI on the 3-day, which is centered at about 32.2. The average volume concentration of this particular chart is resting right down here within this bearish BISI, with this area likely acting as our first layer of support if price does move to the downside. We also have a bullish target right up here in the form of a weak doji waterfall in the 3-day, resting about 42.50. But we first have to get through this bearish BISI. The good thing about getting through these BISIs on these charts is right now they're acting as resistance, but if we can get up and above these, they will likely flip over and act as a form of support as well, which could potentially signal a move to the upside, as we will have another layer of support to potentially keep the price propped up for those moves higher. During the first run we saw on the Trump election pump, algo actually performed much better than it is right now, setting this high right here at about 61.8. I would really like to see the price break out, take out this target, perhaps consolidate, confirm this bearish BISI as support, then move up to the upside, putting the pressure on this pattern high. I generally don't like to see things move straight up in a straight line. I would prefer to see them do the retests, stepping on up rather than just popping, as I believe that it creates much better support zones along the way than, say, something like this that just goes straight up. So thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.